What up, Frame Chasers? John DiMarco, and I have a question for you. Have you ever thought about creating a podcast? Did you create a podcast and after a couple episodes you're like, I can't do this anymore? Or did you create one that only released one and realized you have no time to continue? Well, today I'm here to help you get over that hump and get you to a higher than the 44% of podcasts that have less than 3 episodes. The keywords are evergreen and consistent. So let me give you a quick history lesson of my podcast experience. 2018 to 2019, I worked for a social media influencer. This person had a particular podcast that he would host, and I thought, shit, I should have a podcast. If he can do it, why can't I do it? That was my mentality. I left that job and went back to the news in March of 2019. For months, I thought, what was I to do? How do I go along with this? What is my podcast going to be about? I did a lot of thinking and soul searching. I looked at podcasts that I enjoyed, like the Rewatchables and the Lap Span, and even looked at Joe Rogan's clips on YouTube. I'm not the biggest Joe Rogan fan, but his amount of content and how much he was putting out was something that really made me think. Finally, in August, I figured out I'm going to interview people in the film community, preferably in Vegas, because that was the easiest guest to get. I figured we'd talk about what made them want to pursue this dream of being a creative and what their journey is. Because I always think everyone is going through something and we can relate to someone's journey because it might give us the drive to continue to push through and still go on. And the second half of the show will be a discussion about the pros and cons of the Vegas film community and what we can do to get to the next level. So there was my idea. Now, I know myself. I start something and I get bored with it and then stop when I don't see results. I've gotten better with that. I thought for longevity's sake, I'm going to make these podcasts evergreen, meaning they weren't going to be really outdated by the time the episodes drop. So I decided the deadline January 1st to drop the first episode. New year, new me, new podcast. Smart moves that gave me enough time to try and get as many episodes as I can. So what did I do? I started with my friends and asked the people I know personally first to see if they wanted to be on my podcast. And it worked. I started in the end of October and I got some friends on board. I started pumping out podcasts. I had my friends come over, we set up in my apartment dining room, and we would just talk for hours. Thankfully, my roommate was super chill with this. Now, I had some podcast gear already. I bought a while back when I first tried to launch a podcast and had no direction with that. It was a setup with 2 mics, a little mixer, and headphones. Pretty sure I blew out the mic because I was done with the XLR Phantom Power. I digress. So in November, I'm on my 4th podcast and I decided to make a purchase that would change my podcast life. I decided to buy the Rodecaster, which was very new when I started, so it was the perfect storm of buying that piece of gear and 2 Rode podcast mics. Yes, it was a pretty big purchase, and yes, I maybe shouldn't have done that. My reasoning behind it was, okay, I brought it, so now I'm serious, and now I'm not going to stop because I would feel like I wasted my money and I really wanted to get my money's worth. Let's fast forward to January 1st. Dropped the first episode of Chasing the Frame, and I already had scheduled 24 other podcasts as well. I know, and this was all just audio. Now you might be asking me, what about the video aspect? Well, I started editing podcasts, but I was taking 2 different camera feeds, bringing them into Premiere, cutting the multicam of 60 plus minutes of a lot of time. It was a lot of work. It was hard to do and keep up with. Remember, this was 2019, 2020, and the AI podcast editor wasn't a thing yet. But still, it was hard to be a one-man band and try to edit as well as scheduling podcasts, hosting, and having a full-time job of working 4 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the news. Yeah, I did have my friend Mark help me out, but he has a full-time job as well, and he had to take care of his son, and he was trying to start his own podcast. But hey, at least the audio podcasts were up and online on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a handful of other places. Now, as we know, 2020 was the year of the pandemic. So because I evergreened the crap out of my podcast, by the time the stay-at-home order came to be, I was actually done with the whole year of 2020. I was finished with 52 episodes by March, and I did an additional 6 episodes on top of that, which I fitted for a 2-episode day for 3 days during NAB to really drive traffic and be active. With the pandemic in effect and already hitting 52 episodes, I took a much needed vacation. It took a lot out of me. Now, hindsight being 2020, I should have cut the videos, but I didn't. Fast forward again now to September 2020, we bought a house and now I'm doing podcasts via Discord, which honestly sucked. I mean, it's not the same as someone coming over, feeding off them in a person. I had shitty internet connection at the time with Cox, and trying to run Discord off my MacBook Pro was a nightmare. And during that time, these new recordings, I just started feeling defeated. Like honestly, it was just terrible. I pushed forward and was banging out episodes and I was still hitting my deadlines weeks scheduled out. It was then I realized, oh shit, I'm running out of storage. So I bought a DAS and a 1 terabyte hard drive, which I filled with all my year's stuff. So I got another hard drive, 8 terabytes, went to format that drive, but crap, the drive that was formatted was the wrong drive. I don't know how I did it. I picked the new drive, but the DAS just format all the stuff. I was broken and upset, but weirdly not as much as I thought. I put a lot of time and energy into this podcast and was beating myself. So once it happened, I decided to just stop for now and that's where I am. The 3 takeaways I learned from doing this podcast were evergreen content, scheduling your stuff out, and backing up is the most important stuff you can want for your podcast. And on top of that too, it was a hard lesson and a hard pill to swallow because I had actually the second year done as well. I had up to 102 episodes completed. And sadly, again, everything past episode 83, I believe, is gone. It does suck, and I do miss it. If I had to do it all over again, I would do evergreen, be consistent, do video this time, and on top of that, back up everything properly. Get enough storage, like 12 terabytes before I even put anything on the hard drives, format those, and make sure everything's clean. And then I actually have another drive that's active projects that I can just back up into the 12 terabytes on the DAS system. And on top of that too, I would do videos and actually buy like a Blackmagic A10 Mini to switch my camera because again, that would save me hours in the edit as well. Luckily, because I have Opus Pro now, I can just make really quick minute videos for social media, so that would save me time making shorts as well. Another thing you should definitely look into for podcasting. It's a big podcast. It's a big thing. People love doing clips for shows on podcasts, and using Opus will save you tons of time as well. And even doing the A10 will make you save tons of time switching and doing camera angles and hopefully getting it right the first time, and maybe just have to going back in, fixing like a miscut, if anything. And that would just get my content out even quicker. And on top of that, scheduling all that stuff out, like if you're gonna do that, definitely give yourself 3 months of preparing and getting as many episodes as possible before you even release your stuff. Because that's the thing too, you have to be consistent. Like, look at all these podcasts. There's like 44% don't pass 3 episodes. So if you're passing 3 episodes, if you get 4 to 5 done within a month, you are now better than any other podcast that has 3 or less episodes. That you're now higher probability to succeed. And podcast numbers are so skewed. Like you have to just push through, keep doing what you're doing, and just carry on. You can do this. I know you can. If you just listen to what I'm preaching right now, I know it will work because I practiced this and I've seen it firsthand work for me. I was done with a whole year of evergreen content. Overall, guys, if you're gonna start a podcast, I would definitely take this advice. If you're gonna also look into a podcast, look at Anchor, it's free. I would totally look at that as well. It's a great site. I've used it for my podcasting and stuff like that. But if you're gonna do a network, I would say use Red Circle. I used it for a little bit before the podcast kiboshed, and that was great too because we were trying to make a podcast network, and that's another story for another day. But again, highly start with Anchor or now Spotify Podcast, I believe it's called. So you can check that out there. On top of that, have a great week, have a great month, have a great year. We'll check you next time. John DiMarco here signing off. Peace, geese.